Okay, I'm Chris Savino with American Outdoor News. In this episode of the American Outdoor News podcast, we have the founder and CEO of Time Concepts, and we're going to be discussing their new ProTek Series. Please welcome Barry Cohen. Barry, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Excited to be working with you.
Now, Barry, this is a whole new line of business for you. You were originally the founder and CEO of Luminex Watches.
Yeah, I founded Luminox in 1989. I owned it for 27 years. I had an initial partner for 16 years. He exited the business. I brought in some other partners to take his shares, stayed on for another 10 plus, and then for reasons related to philosophical differences, decided it was time to move on.
Yeah, partners are tough. You know, it's not always an easy thing. So since your departure from Luminex, you've been involved in different projects. I'm sure you had a non-compete clause when you left.
Yeah.
What did you do in the interim?
All right. Well, first of all, the brand name is Luminox, just to clarify that. I did have a non-compete, but I had another business, which was Time Concepts, that had been started back in 2007. And that business was started because it just seemed to be a recurring situation where people would say to me at trade shows or otherwise, hey, watches, would you make one for me? Or would you do some design development for me? And I needed a platform to work on and create those. And so Time Concepts seemed like an apt name because we were developing concepts and timepieces. So since that already existed, as a business, we were developing watches for other companies, whether it was retails or brands or what have you, or design development for companies. And that I soon realized that was not a great business model because I wasn't deciding when they needed their next watches. It was up to them. So it was suggested by a friend that I should develop some vintage watches because there was a void in the market. I created a brand called Santo Vintage, which is vintage inspired designs made for today with today's quartz movements and so on. And that was the first of our own brands we put onto that platform. Along the way, the Hawaiian Lifeguard Association came to me and said, hey, watches, would you make our watch? And we created a brand for them, Hawaiian Lifeguard Association watches. And it should be mentioned, these Hawaiian lifeguards are, I grew up in a little bedroom community, went to a little country club, and there was, I was 10 or 11, there was a lifeguard sitting in the chair that was maybe 18, and ooh, they were big teenagers and they were the lifeguards. This is not what Hawaiian lifeguards are. These guys are ocean safety experts and rescue experts, so much so that they train U.S. Special Forces in how to expedite rescues, and they develop the protocols for ocean rescue that are now used all over the world, whether it's jet skis to expedite rescues or the tow sleds or whatever. They're truly masters in the ocean. I mean, I was over in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago. They're training Navy SEALs again. They do this all the time. So I felt it kind of an honor to create their watches, and their watches are extremely well made, the watches we do for them. But you're right. I had a non-compete. The non-compete was too long, but I was having fun, so it didn't matter. But along the way, I had this yearning to get back to what I'm referring to as my lane. And my lane was creating tactical type watches that employ tritium illumination. So with the non-compete done, I just said, you know what? I want to go back. I want to do a no compromises, no excuses watch brand where I'm not concerned about, oh, I had to cut a corner here for a cheaper price on a cheaper strap, or I had to use a lesser movement, or I wanted to make this brand the way I think it's best. And without any partners telling me, no, you got to do this or you got to do that. So we have created a new brand. That brand is ProTek. And that brand starts shipping in 2 weeks. And the name means something. Pro represents the professionals that are core target consumers, which would include law enforcement and SWAT teams. It would include military and special forces. It would include first responders, firefighters, the same people I catered to and created product for in the past. And then tech refers to the illumination technology, which is the unsurpassed tritium gas illumination that glows on its own for 25 years. No need for light to hit the dial to charge it.
Wow.
Literally, we could manufacture it, wrap it in a towel, put it in a closet, go in that closet 15 years later, open it up, it's still glowing. And people in the hunting world or law enforcement world know the technology from night sights on their guns. So it's something we don't need to explain to them. And then in a little bit of a play on words, ProTek as a brand name, the product was created for those that protect us, the very same people I just defined.
Yep.
And so that's takes you from leaving Luminox, the interim period, and now the advent of ProTek. The one thing I would add to that is, prior to Luminox, it's not like I invented this technology. This technology had been around since for decades, but it really didn't exist in timepieces, with the exception of a few watches, a couple of watch brands, which were really aimed almost exclusively at military. So I guess the little feather in my cap is that I took this technology, which is highly enabling, being able to see time at a glance, no matter what the light condition, including no light, and bringing it to the consumer arena en masse with that brand that I owned before. So there's your background.
Now, the ProTek itself, it's both sporty, fashionable, but rugged as well.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because we call our through line rugged at heart, and that goes through the whole brand. What we create is meant to be used as a utilitarian, working man's, sportsman's timepiece that can take a little abuse. So yes, it's rugged at heart. And our little tagline that we've added is all-terrain watches, because we're making watches that are suitable for literally any terrain, whether it's diving, the venerable field watch that has been around, frankly, since World War I, and is a staple of timepieces for over 100 years. And we will be making aviation pieces as well as we go down the road.
So that's exactly what I look for. I look for a watch that I can wear out on the town and it looks fashionable. But if I'm out in the woods hunting, or I'm scuba diving, or something like that, I want it to be functional as well, where I don't have to worry about, oh, I got to take this off, I'm going to damage the watch.
No, that's part of our DNA, is that it's a rugged timepiece. But you mentioned a good point, and that is that, it can't be an ugly timepiece. It has to be something that's attractive.
Sure.
And I don't use the word fashionable as you did, but I would tell you that they're very attractive timepieces. Of course, I'm highly subjective because I'm involved in all the design. But let's let the consumers decide when they see it. I mean, I have some pieces here I could put up to show you as an example, if you wish that I should. This is a piece we're doing here in carbon. This is a carbon case dive watch. We do that watch. I know that was not so easy to see, actually. This is the one that has sold the best thus far, which has been with the blue strap. But of course, we do the blackout. Everybody loves a blackout. That'll be our #1 seller.
Now, the carbon is pretty light, but it's rugged, right?
It's very light, actually. So let me tell you a few differences between what we're doing and some of our chief competitors. Again, I said no compromises, no excuses. So most of the watches in this, in what would be a carbon composite case watch, are using 10% carbon. We're using 30% carbon.
Wow.
Most of them are using a mineral crystal. We're using a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coatings. Many of them use polyurethane straps. Well, those crack and break. We're using genuine rubber. Most of them have a push crown. We have a screw crown. Most of them have a plate case back. We have an embossed screw-in case back. Ours are also 300 meters tested. Every one of our watches is tested in both air and liquid. Most people don't do that. They test in air. Maybe they batch test in liquid. We test everyone. air and liquid. So we're not cutting any corners here. Now, with some of these features, sapphire crystals, 300 meters versus 200 or 100, 30% carbon versus 10, these things all have a cost.
Sure.
But as I said to you when we first started to discuss it, I wasn't going to focus on cost. I was going to focus on one thing only, the best watch I could make and the highest quality I could make. And then the consumer will decide if it's right for them. As for the weight, the carbon case watches weigh about 73 grams. So it's a little over 2 ounces.
Wow.
I mean, it's a little under 3 over 2. Our steel dive watches, there's an example of steel.
That's a new line, right?
That's brand new, this 316L steel. That's 200 meters with 120 click bezel. Here it is in all gunmetal, which will go nicely with people's gun equipment.
Now, it sounds like you've taken a lot of features that are on very expensive watches, and you've incorporated into your brand. That is, I would say, the price points are set for, say, the average guy out there.
Well, again, all of our watches are $525 to $550 suggested retail. You can find them, of course, at some discounts, but that's the price to put all these better components into it. And then the only other thing, I mentioned the field watch to you. The field watch is made out of titanium. So here it is in a blackout.
Wow.
So
it's
when it's tight, and here it is with beige dial. I don't know if you can see that. And then you got a hunter green, perfect for the hunt. That goes with your shirt beautifully. The field watch is only 48 grams. It's less than 2 ounces. You literally do not know you're wearing it.
Yep.
I mean, it's on my wrist right now, and I don't know that it's coming off, frankly. The one thing I will tell you, and this is kind of bucking tradition. Everybody makes a big to-do about Swiss made.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's debunk some myths here. Swiss made means something when you're up in the multi-thousand range. It doesn't mean a thing when you're in the 300 to 1,000 range. All of these watch companies source the components in Asia, all of them. And there's a simple reason. I mean, just take the case, the steel, take a steel case watch. The steel case alone, one component, is 5 times the price if not sourced in Asia. That's one component. You haven't done dial, straps, hands, all the other components. Watches become unsellable if you're not sourcing components in Asia.
Sure.
So these people are sourcing the components in Asia. They're bringing it to Switzerland, having Swiss people assemble it and putting, let's say, a Swiss quartz movement in it. Well, I made the decision that I wasn't going to do that because it's my personal opinion. Your customers can decide for themselves, but I wanted to use Citizen's Japanese movement. I've had far less issues in 30 years of working in the watch business plus. I've had far less issues with Citizen's movement, the Miyota's a division of Citizen, than I did with the Swiss quartz. So I said, why am I falling prey to this nonsense? And we're actually assembling, it's an American brand, Swiss design, assembled in Hong Kong, not China. And I'm very comfortable with that, and Japanese movement. And if anyone who knows watches doesn't think Citizen and Seiko make some of the best watches in the world, they're crazy.
I always loved my Seiko watch.
I mean, that's a fact.
I'm a little bit of a collector. I got a little bit of everything.
So this is how we conceived and built the brand with one goal: the best watch we could make.
Now, the different models.
Yep.
You have 2 right now.
Three series, 19 SKUs in the launch collection.
Okay.
So the carbon composite has 9, the steel, which is a dive watch. The steel dive watch has 5. The titanium field watch has 5. We have 4 other series designed, but you got to start somewhere. We started with these three, and bit by bit, we will add more to what we're doing. We'll also add steel and titanium bracelets to our steel dive watch and our titanium field watch.
Well, you launched the first series when? Last year?
Of this brand?
Yeah,
No, it's launching now.
as we
I mean, it's,
speak.
yeah, I did a soft launch at the SHOT Show in January with cobbled together handmade samples just to show that market what we were working on. We had a wonderful reception, and frankly, we got hundreds of pre-orders with people saying, "Hey, I want one of these," and they booked the watches. But the actual shipping, the stock is due to arrive in about a week to 10 days.
Okay. Now, you are doing this through Kickstarter.
No, let me explain that. This has been fully funded by me.
Okay.
Kickstarter has nothing to do with the funding. I chose to work with Kickstarter because I know it can cast a wide net, wider than I could possibly do myself. And that was borne out with our first Kickstarter, which was on the carbon case watches. We got orders from 17 countries.
Wow.
That would have never happened without the Kickstarter. And so as a result, we said, hey, it seems to work. We're casting a wide net. Let's do one now on the steel. And the steel Kickstarter is live now through August 13th, I think.
Okay.
But it was not to fund it. It was just to create awareness.
So it's basically you used it through for a marketing tool.
Exactly. It was exclusively as a marketing tool.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, we are going to take a quick break right now to acknowledge some of our sponsors. Underwood Ammo, always a standard of excellence. Pyro Putty and Phone Scope, always innovative with their products as well. And we're going to hear right now from Hunt of a Lifetime, and we will be right back.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Okay, and we are back with Barry Cohen, the founder and CEO of Time Concepts, talking about their new brand, the ProTek Series. And Barry, I got to say, I can't wait to wear one of these for my upcoming season. Getting out in the woods and, you know, you're banging around, climbing stands, sticking your hand in animals, field dress and whatnot. How durable are these watches?
Well, listen, I mean, any timepiece can be broken.
Sure.
As I told you, we opted to use sapphire crystals. Yes, they have a much higher Vickers count and they're stronger and they resist scratching. But I mean, you take that crystal and you bang it into lava rock or something like that, and it is possible to crack the crystal. We think we have a very durable piece. Let me give you another little feature. On our carbon composite watches that use a rubber strap, we decided that when we tooled that strap, we put a steel tube into the strap so that the spring pin goes through a steel tube when it attaches to the watch case. This is just one more little thing to make it a more durable timepiece. We make adventure gear. It just happens to be a watch.
How is it powered? is it perpetual? Is it battery? How are
They're all quartz movements at the moment. We're using the Citizens Miota movement, and it's an extremely durable movement. We have, in the dive watches, we have a 10-year battery movement, and there's a reason for that. The less you have to open a watch, the better off you are in terms of water resistance.
Yeah.
If somebody takes a watch to a facility to change a battery and they don't have pressure testing equipment, well, then you don't know that the watch is watertight when you get it back to you. They could have, when they screw on the case back, they could have crimped a gasket or something like that. So we opted for a 10-year battery movement so that you don't have to think about it for a decade. Even our field watch has a 4-year battery. I think we made the right choices there.
Well, I got to say, I love the style. I love that it's light and you don't feel like you're lugging around a hunk of metal like some of the like the Breitlings and the Rolexes, which, you know, I've worn my Breitling diving, I've worn it hunting, I've worn it hang gliding. So, you know, I'm an active guy and I want something that is going to put up with my lifestyle.
You know, I want to make one comment when I was discussing, because you mentioned, you know, really fine brands. When I was discussing Swiss made or not Swiss made, I'm not referring to that level of watch. When you get to that level of watch, the Omegas, the Breitlings, the Rolexes, the ProTeks, you know, some of them get to become an art form.
Yeah.
Then Swiss made means a lot. So I'm not maligning the Swiss watch industry.
No, I know what you meant.
I
And
want to be clear about
clearing
it.
up, I know what you're saying. Now, the illumination.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. All right, so this is our key USP, you know, our unique selling proposition. It's a really technical physicist laboratory that makes our loom, and the loom is a completely separate factory from watchmaking. So I'll tell you how this works. They take borosilicate glass tubes of about 1/2 inch in diameter. They're heated and pulled and drawn down to about 1/2 millimeter in diameter. It's actually 0.3 to 0.65. So that's why I said about 1/2. Depends on the tube. Once these are cooled, under magnification, wearing magnification goggles, the inside of these vessels are filled with a glue. They call it cement over there. We call it glue. They make sure that the entire vessel is coated. One end is sealed with a CO2 laser. An 18-inch piece of glass then goes into vacuum machinery.
Mhm.
You've seen incubators with babies in them, and the people are dealing with the babies with their hands in gloves.
Sure.
It looks like that, but it's in a vacuum. The reason they use a vacuum is because they're able to get more loom out of it. And I'll tell you how. Once in the vacuum, these tubes are attached to rubber connectors. And then tritium gas, which is H3 or heavy hydrogen, H2 is hydrogen, is pumped into the tubes, and the tube is sealed. Again, under a vacuum, you get more tritium gas in.
Sure.
Now you got an 18-inch tube that is sealed, but the tritium emits beta, and the beta causes the phosphor that is, oh, I left out that step. You got glue, then they fill under magnification again, they fill it with a phosphor. Different phosphors yield different glow colors. So now after that comes the tritium gas, and it's sealed. The second that's sealed, this tritium is emitting beta, causing the phosphor to fluoresce on its own, self-powered for 25 years. Now that tube goes into a CO2 laser. It's like something you'd see in Q's lab for Bond.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into a CO2 laser, and the tubes are cut to the lengths needed to be either hour markers on the hour hand, the minute hand, the second hand, the bezel pip. And so you end up with these little tiny tubes. This is a whole different step that has nothing to do with watchmaking. Then those tubes are shipped to the watchmaker. A package of 10,000 tubes is going to be about 4 inches by 4 inches by 1 inch. That's how little this whole thing is. Micro technology. and those go to the watchmakers, and you have to be licensed to work on this.
Mhm.
And then that is where they're installed into the watch dials, into the watch hands, into the bezels. And that's just one extra additional step that is part of what we make in watches and why the loom is so special. Now, bear in mind, the loom alone at retail would run about $150 just for the loom without a watch. So it's an added expense, obviously.
Well, I see it very handy as an outdoorsman, sitting in my tree stand. I don't have to shine my flashlight at my watch to see what time it is, see how long I have before the sun comes up. I just look down and it's glowing. Now, you were in the past you were the official watch for Navy SEALs.
Yeah, with Luminox, listen, luck counts in life, good or bad. It plays a role. And I was at an outdoor show back in 1993, and a gentleman that was doing research and development for the Navy SEALs happened upon our booth, said, I've been looking all over for you. If you put this loom into our watches, into a dive watch for us and make one for us, we'll buy it. And so the SEALs bought, honestly, not that many, but they did buy some watches from us. Over the years, it was really just a few hundred, but his words to me were, you make them for us, then you can go tell the world you did, and hopefully that'll mean something. And it did mean something. It helped to give credibility enhancement to that brand.
Sure.
While I was with that brand, the United States Marines spoke to me about making a watch for the Marines. At the moment, I felt that would sort of dilute what we were doing that was tied to the Navy. And so I passed on it. I still had the rapport with these people, and realizing that I was coming out with a new brand, ProTek, I ended up in conversation with them, and they asked me, hey, would you make our Halo watch? In other words, they do a couple of watches, but this would be their best watch. And I said, I'd be honored to do it. So I've actually been in ongoing discussions as well with three-star general about this, three-star general of the Marines. And we've kind of gone back and forth, and I took his input, and we created a product that we felt was suitable for the Marines. And we have signed the deal, and we are now an official watch of the United States Marines. And we're very proud of that. Very
That's
proud.
fantastic. That really is. So you will also, I don't want to say contract manufacture, you will also create brands for other groups if approached.
Yeah, that's not any different than what I used to do in the past as well, and it's already underway. We are already developing watches for San Francisco Police Department and San Francisco Perimeter Unit that supports a SWAT team. We are already developing some things for other SWAT teams and other police departments. We're in discussion with ATF to create watches for them. Basically, I'm just taking all my old relationships and saying, hey, we're back. We're making something superior to what I made in the past. How'd you like to have one made for you? And there's about a dozen organizations that we're already working with, and there will be, this time I'm really making this a focus, and I'm pretty confident we'll add up to somewhere near 100 organizations that we supply watches to.
That's great. That's great.
So if any of your listeners are part of either police force,
or one of those groups.
Yeah, police forces, firefighters, tactical teams, even corporations. We're now in development for watches for a couple of corporations that said we'd like to have your watch, but dual brand it with our branding and our logo too. We'll do all of that. We do it routinely, and those are fun projects.
Sure. Well, it looks like you're really hit the ground running, and there's no telling where this brand is going to end up at the end of the day, but the future looks really bright.
Well, it's a pun, right? Based on our illumination. One thing I didn't tell you on the illumination, if I can, on the dive watch this time, I decided to kind of think it through and say, hey, what's really important in diving? There's only one thing that's really important in diving. How much air do you have left?
Sure.
That's what really counts. And so I decided that, you know what, the loom colors, there's about 9 loom colors. The brightest is green. So I thought, you know what, let's make the things that count the most green, and we'll do the rest in a more softer ice blue. So on the dive watches, the bezel pip, which is the timing, the second hand, the minute hand, and 12 o'clock. So you always know where top of the dial is. So those things we did in green. So if you're looking quick, a real quick look, you know immediately the key information you need as a diver. I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit, do something different there. You know, if your listeners have interest, you mentioned the Kickstarter, the Steel Dive Kickstarter is underway right now. If they have interest in a discount, and who doesn't, especially with costs rising like they are,
Sure.
they can go to Kickstarter.com and go to the search bar and just key in ProTek, and you'll see our former ProTek campaign, which was the Carbon Diver, but that's now expired. But you'll see the new steel one. You can click on that, and you'll get, I think it's somewhere around a 30% discount.
Wow, that's a big discount.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
Absolutely. So where can we find you on the web, on social media?
All right, well, the easiest thing to do is to go to protekwatch.com, and I'll spell that. That's PROTEK watch.com. There's our website, and on the website you can see the entire range of product, all the different models. You can read about what it is we put into it. You can get a feeling for the flavor of the brand as well. And we have social media underway as well, on Instagram, on Facebook, but I'm going to tell you that I'm kind of a tech dinosaur. I have someone else do that because I'm not really into social media, but
Not
other
uncommon.
people are doing it for us. You know, I have my daughter kids me about it. I have an Instagram account and a Facebook account. If you were to look at my personal, if you were to look at my Instagram account, it has one picture that she put on it for me.
There you go.
It's just not me, but that's okay. You know, we have the website. People can learn about us there. By the way, on the Kickstarter, the first 100 orders also get T-shirts and caps, just as a little gift that we throw in, and a second rubber strap. Oh, I should mention, on our leather straps, those are waterproof leather. There's a difference. Standard leather starts kind of stiff, breaks in and gets soft, but if you put it in water, put your hand in water, it gets brittle and it will crack, usually initially right where the buckle hits it.
And it shrinks.
These straps are treated so that doesn't happen. They start soft, they get softer. You put your hand in water, they actually mold to your wrist and they will not crack. Even though that's the case on the Steel Dive watch for the Kickstarter, we're throwing in a rubber dive strap as well.
That's great. Good to hear. All right, so they can find you at what? Timeconcepts.net?
Well, that's where our shop is. We're operating 5 different brands, each of which has its own website. HawaiianLifeguardWatch.com is one, SantoTime.com is another, and that's SZANTO, the Z is silent, time.com. And for this one, it's ProTekWatch.com. If you find something you like there and you happen to click on it, it will take you to timeconcepts.net to be able to purchase it. That's just our shop, but
Okay.
the watch brand has its own website.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Don't forget to check out the brands at all the websites that Barry just said. If you like the show, what we had to say, subscribe to the show, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.